minutes, you're deemed to have consented to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. Can I please request that when councillors and members of the public are speaking, not to disclose any personal information of an individual, as this might infringe the rights of that individual and breach data protection rules. This is a formal town council and will be held just as those in the town hall, using the agenda which the clerk has published. As with our usual meetings, members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak during public open sessions, but will not be permitted to speak at other times. When you're not speaking, will you please mute your microphone, and this will help eliminate background noise. Thank you very much. So apologies for absence, and I understand we have an apology from Councillor North.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and everybody else is here. Do I have any declarations of interest in any item on the agenda? Councillor Bond.
I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 11C.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? Thank you. I don't have any town mayor's announcements, so we're now on to the public open session, and I have five attendees. Could please members of the public remember that normal procedure applies. You may put questions or address the council pertaining to matters listed on the agenda at this point. I will announce the name of the speaker, and that will be recorded in the minutes unless that person requests otherwise. And each speaker will be allowed 1 3-minute slot, and there'll be a warning after 2.5 minutes. So we have 5 people as attendees. Councillors can't see members of the public, so if you wish to speak, can you please indicate by raising your electronic hand within Zoom? I'm not seeing any hands going up. I'll give a moment or two longer. No, okay, well, I will move on with the agenda then. We don't have an invited speaker. Do we have any members' questions, please? Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. To the town clerk. So I did request an item on the agenda around the Orchard Centre and an item for information to update councillors on the remediation works that are required there. I notice it's not on today's agenda. Can I ask, are you able to give us an update or at least give an assurance that it will be on the agenda of the next full council meeting, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think there's any issue about putting it on the agenda. It's just that we had very little to report this time. We have been in touch with the contractors, and the original solution now seems to be not appropriate, and there's further work being done, to try and find the best solution to the issue with the floor. So it is ongoing. There has been quite a lot of toing and froing within the last week or so, but there's nothing positive, I'm afraid, that we can report at the moment. But we can give a report at the next meeting as to what's actually happened since today. But as I say, at the moment, it is ongoing, and there's been no positive resolution with the contractor as to what is going to happen and when it's going to happen, whether we are in dialogue with them.
Okay, it would be good to have that on the agenda because obviously the Orchard Centre is one of our most valuable assets. So it's quite right that we as members know when there's any issues. Thank you.
Are there any other members' questions, please?
Just a quick one, Madam Mayor. I mean, it was only announced earlier on today, but I was delighted to see that children's play parks are now going to be able to reopen from the 4th of July. And whilst I wouldn't expect a quick answer from the town clerk now, because obviously it's only just been announced, I hope that as a council we can seek to get those open and as quickly and safely as possible.
If I may just respond, Madam Mayor, but one of the things that we've been very vigilant about is keeping an eye on the children's play parks. I have to say there's been one or two instances where members of the public have been observed trying to lift their children over the gates and so forth. But generally speaking, the public have responded and been very good at observing the notices. But what has been happening is that regular inspections have still taken place during the whole of the period while the playgrounds were closed. So I think, apart from doing the appropriate risk assessments, which we will have to do, I think we're well placed, let me put it that way, well placed to move towards an opening sooner rather than later. I wouldn't want to put a date on it firmly, but all the signs seem to be positive because we've been carrying on with the inspections during the whole of the lockdown period.
Thank you very much.
Right, good news. Yep.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Okay, well, the next item is the minutes of the 9th of June, which were circulated. So I'll go through for accuracy first, please. Anything on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5? Page 6? Page 7? Page 8? Page 9?
Yes, please.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you. At the top of the page, there's a minute recording some of what I said. Can you also add, please, that I said I thought it would be wrong and something of an anomaly if market traders were denied the opportunity to trade and earn a living when shops can choose to reopen from June the 15th? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've made a note of that. Thank you. I'm going on to matters arising now. And again, anything on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5? We have got that item on the agenda, haven't we? Page 6? I'm on to page 7 now. Anything? Page 8?
Please.
Councillor Knight?
Can I request an update on the DFIB, please?
On the defibrillator?
Yes, please.
Yes, as I understand it, as I reported to members last time, we've identified the item. As far as I'm aware, an order either has been placed or is about to be placed. I haven't checked today. No, Nina's nodding her head. As far as I'm aware, as I say, an order is being placed. There's nothing to stop it being placed, but I haven't got a firm update confirmation of that.
Might it be possible to just send an email to confirm
Yes.
that it's been placed and
Great,
what
please.
the delivery is? Thank you very much for that. Okay, anything else on page 8? Page 9? That's it. Okay, so we've done minutes and matters arising. We're now on to planning applications. And the first one is the Co-op store, the Saxon Centre, new plant and air conditioning. Any comments, please? Councillor Ramsey.
Can I just move the subject of the amendment? The minutes are accepted.
Thank you. That's a slap on the wrist for the chairman because
No.
if you accept the minutes, I'm sorry, councillors, are the minutes formally accepted, please? Can you nod? Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Councillor Ramsey. I'm back to the Co-op store on the Saxon Centre. Any comments, please, from councillors? No objection?
No objection.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then 3 Derwent Avenue, 2-storey and single-storey rear extensions and garage conversion. Any comments, please? No.
Move no objection, subject to neighbours.
Thank you. Is everybody happy with that? Right. And item C, 15 Spring Close, conversion of double garage for residential use. Any comments? No? Councillor Ramsey?
I know Spring Close is very difficult to park down there now. A lot of the houses have got 2 cars and they've only got space for 1. I'm wondering how this is going to impact on the parking in Spring Close for residents. It really is nose to tail when you go down there with cars.
Okay. Do you want to draw that to planners' attention?
Yes, yes.
Object.
I'm concerned that there's going to be a loss of parking in an already crowded street or close.
Okay. But what I'm asking is, do you want to object, or do you?
Yes, please, yes.
Yeah, so object on loss of parking. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Yes, thank you, Councillor Fage. So the motion is that we object because of loss of parking.
Councillor Leslie Fage, you want to speak as well, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Councillor.
Leslie.
No, that's all right. Just to say, this is getting an extra bedroom in the double garage, which they are losing. They do have 2 car parking spaces outside, which they are reserving. But Councillor Ramsey is right. It is a very busy, crowded road. I do believe further down the road on the entrance up, because that particular house is at the end of the cul-de-sac. I think someone's running a business that, I don't know whether they repair cars or do taxiing. So there's quite a few cars parked up there. Yeah. Not that that should impact the planning permission, because that's not their fault, but it is a fact. It is very busy up there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, the motion is to object because of loss of parking. Councillor Pullinger.
I just make the point that if they have 2 spaces off street that are still being reserved for that property, then I don't think it's reasonable for us to object due to lack of parking, because the expectation for a house is to have 2 spaces. So if they've got 2 spaces, I don't think it's valid for us to object on that basis.
Okay, I've got Councillor Bond wants to speak.
The expectation is normally if you've got 3 bedrooms, you expect to have 2 parking spaces. So if you've got 4, you're meant to have 3. Sorry, I didn't actually pay enough attention to see how many bedrooms the existing building has.
3 to 4 it's going to.
So in that case, by CBC's rules, you should have 3 parking spaces.
Okay, I still have the motion to object. Councillor Pullinger again, please.
I was just going to say, in a new build house with 4 bedrooms, you only have 2 spaces. So that doesn't seem logical to me.
But we're not talking new build.
Anything else before I take a vote? Okay, so the motion is to object because of loss of parking. All those in favour, please show. That's 6. Against? 3.
I will abstain.
4. Sorry.
I will abstain because of my position on DMC.
Okay, can I just ask those who are against to show again to make sure I've got it right? I've now got 5 people against. So it's 6 for and 5 against. So we are objecting due to loss of parking. 4 London Road. We've talked about this before and the planning application has been resubmitted. Do I have any comments from councillors, please?
I did.
Sorry?
Yeah, I had another look at this again today, and I'm still very confused, even from the graphic that the acting town clerk sent through to me around quite where the parking is going to be, because I'm still not convinced it won't impinge on the other property that it backs onto, the Stratton Guest House. I'm still very unclear as to where they are hoping to have that parking. So if other colleagues have understood that and it's clearer, then I'm happy for it to be explained. But I'm still slightly baffled as to what they're trying to achieve with the parking space there.
Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Having looked at the application and the plans, and in particular some of the consultation, the highways officer has strongly objecting to this because of the lack of parking to it. I think it's a stronger objection than it was on the previous occasion. So I think our objection on the grounds of the lack of adequate parking for the development should stand. Again, I think highways officers cite Councillor Bond's comments re the parking numbers, and the parking there is just not adequate for this particular development. So unless they can increase the parking provision and make it quite clear that it's increased for this property, I think we should object on the grounds of lack of parking.
Thank you. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, just to ask the others really, has anybody noticed the difference between this application and the previous application? Because I can't discern any difference whatsoever. But I may just be being stupid, of course.
Could I respond, Madam Mayor? I mean, I think it is very, very difficult. We can only tell you as officers that this is what we have been advised by the planning officers, because there's been a constant dialogue between your officers and CBC on this particular planning application to try and clarify why it has been resubmitted. But we are assured by the planning officer responsible for this, dealing with particular application, that there has been basically a redrawing of the red line boundary, which in their view limits the curtilage of the property even further, and therefore the opportunity to park on the site is diminished. Now, whether that makes sense to you or not, I don't know. We were scratching our heads to see how the drawings actually differed, and you know, given the scale of the plan and the size that we were shown, it is actually very difficult. I do take that point. Could I just point out to members that you objected on a number of grounds, and are you going to basically ask me to respond to basically repeat all of those and maybe emphasize the parking? Is that your wish?
Could you remind us what the other issues are, please?
Yes, you said there was no sort of detailed plan on the design, and we're still waiting from, again, in our dialogue with the borough, with the unitary authority officers, that you know, what the actual use of the rooms is going to be and so forth, because it isn't clear. So you objected on those grounds. The parking issue was the second one. And the third was clarity whether the coffee shop was included in the application. We think it isn't, but those were the three grounds on which an objection was put in on the 12th of May.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have a proposal on the table yet. Would somebody like to offer a proposal? Councillor Brown?
I propose we object.
On all grounds or just parking?
On all the grounds, and specifically on what the highways officer has said.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yes, thank you, Councillor Strawn. Okay, all those in favour of objecting on three grounds, but particularly parking? That's everybody except Councillor Bond for reasons of being on DMC. Okay, the next item on the agenda is accounts. Councillor Ramsey, did you want to introduce this?
Yes, you will see that this time round the accounts are in committee order rather than cost centre order, which makes them easier to understand. I would like to recommend, but before I do that, we've had some good news from the NatWest Bank. I don't know whether the word got down to Kent that Biggleswade was on the march, but they have actually agreed, and I would like to pay tribute to the determination of our town clerk and our mayor in dealing with no end of superfluous forms and keeping their temper, even if the blood pressure went up, and just carrying this through to the end to get the right result. So thank you to them, because this has taken nearly 2 years to sort out. And I would like to recommend now to receive and adopt the following accounts: a detailed balance sheet, the income and expenditure by budget heading, the NatWest payment listing, and the Lloyds payment listing.
Noting that we shouldn't have a NatWest payment listing next time round.
No, not next time round.
Okay, Councillor Pullinger.
I'd just like to ask for one clarification, and I appreciate that we may not have an answer this evening, but if the clerk could come back to us. I noticed that in the cleaning costs for the town hall, that we appear to, in 2 months, to have spent almost 2/3 of the annual budget. So I'm wondering, is that COVID related, or is there another driver for that? And if we could get some information on that. But otherwise, I'd like to second the adoption.
Thank you very much. And I was going to ask the town clerk to discuss some of the other things as well this evening, so no doubt he can include it with that. Thank you very much. Do we need to vote on that now?
If we're ready, if nobody else wishes to speak. Okay, all those in favour of receiving and adopting the accounts, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, I'm on to...
I want Philip now to discuss it, please.
Sorry, what would you like me to do,
You're
Madam
going
Mayor?
to explain about the investments that you've done, or you're going to do, and how that's going. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Yes, councillors. On the balance sheet, you'll see a figure. I've got an up-to-date balance now from the aggregated NatWest money coming into the Barclays. Sorry, my mistake. Lloyds account, and we have over 266,000 coming across, together with the sort of 600,000 odd. So we now have a balance in the bank of over 800,000. I had also got a piece of good news today. CCLA about 5 o'clock this afternoon confirmed that the forms were all in order and that the CCLA deposit account has now gone live. So we are in a position where, as a council, you can invest your money into the CCLA and get a much better return than 0.01%, which you're getting from the bank. As I say, the balance is in excess of 800,000 in aggregate. I am mindful to take half of that balance, because we have to bear in mind we need to keep some liquid assets to cover up to the next precept, and I'm trying to be cautious to start with. But if we took 50%, around about 400,000 or thereabouts, depending upon what the day balance is tomorrow, and move that into CCLA, that would still allow enough money within the current account at Lloyds to cover any contingencies between now and when the precept comes in. That would be my plan.
Councillor Ramsey.
So I'm not sure here whether I'm allowed to propose it, because the actual item on the agenda is just to receive and adopt the accounts. But if I'm allowed to, I would like to propose that the town clerk carries that out and invests 400,000. But if it's not, we'll have to have it on another council meeting.
May I come in, please?
Please, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
We don't need to make a decision on that, because the council's already made the decision that the clerk will sort out the appropriate balance to invest.
Fine, good.
So there's no hold up. The clerk can go ahead and do, and I think he was telling us what he's intending to do, which sounds very sensible, because when we talked about it, when we made the decision to give the clerk authority, the talk was of a minimum of 300,000 in the bank account. So the clerk is being appropriately cautious at the moment.
Fine.
So I think, thank you Clerk for giving us that update, and hooray that both NatWest Bank and CCLA now are off the agenda for the time being. Right, thank you very much. So I can...
Councillor Pullinger wanted to ask about the cleaning costs. Can Philip help with that? Sorry, can the clerk help with that?
Well, help with the cleaning, of course. I'll just roll my sleeves up. No, seriously, I don't have an answer to that. I'd have to look into it, but I'll email an answer as soon as I have it from officers.
Thank you.
Are we done on finance? Can I move on?
Yes.
Right. Items for consideration, and the first is a notification from BATPC about a consultation on a new model member code of conduct. And the main thing that now our association wants to respond to is that there should be stronger sanctions, because a few years ago, when Eric Pickles was Secretary of State, he removed a lot of the sanctions that the monitoring officer, the legal officer at CBC had for councillors, or for any monitoring officer, come to that. So that's a major part of the consultation. Do people have comments on this, please, on the whole consultation? Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. I think we ought to respond to the consultation, but I think we need to have a little bit more time to give it due consideration, considering it is a fairly detailed document, and so far we've only had 3 days really to review it, and we're not in any mad rush with the deadline being the 17th of August. So can I make a proposal that we table this for either the second meeting in July or the first meeting in August to agree our response?
May I suggest it's the second meeting in July in case there's any other work that needs to be done?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. So all those in favour of deferring to the second meeting in July? Yeah, that's a majority. Thank you. Right, we're now moving on to a response to the Hallam Land Development Brief for land north of Potton Road. Sorry, it says land north of Biggleswade, but I always think of it as Potton Road. We had Hallam at the last meeting. We've got detailed minutes of what they talked to us about, and there's now a response being drafted in conjunction with our transport consultants. Can I ask, please, Councillor Grant-Fage to introduce this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't read the whole thing. I've sent an email around to councillors with the final version. I sent that this morning. Thank you to everybody who had their input as well. There was a copy on SharePoint, which some members have had a look at. As Councillor Russell says, basically, we know that Hallam came along at the last meeting, discussed some of the content of the development brief. Having discussed this with the transport consultant, we think it makes absolute sense, now that we've had an opportunity to engage with them in that consultation, to put in a formal objection to their development brief. Just for members' awareness, a development brief is not the same thing as an outline planning application. It sets parameters around that a future application should fill the detail in on. And so it's a deliberately high level document. It deliberately doesn't have a lot of detail in it. It's deliberately vague. It's deliberately, I won't say misleading. It's not deliberately misleading, but we all know it kind of is. Basically, there is content in there that is worth rebutting, though. There's issues over access for vehicles. There's issues over access for pedestrians. There's issues over rights of way. There's issues over what will happen to Lindsell's Crossing. There are issues over the dependency that they have on the 1,500 homes to the east of Biggleswade, namely the HIF bid, which is contingent on 1,500 houses. These are all things which should be mentioned in the development. Either they are mentioned in the development brief and we're not happy with what it says, or they should be mentioned and they're not. The letter lays all of this out. So I'd like to propose that that letter that was circulated to councillors is sent to Central Beds Council and, out of courtesy, sent to Hallam Land Management as well, so that they have absolutely no reason for not being aware of our views over their development brief. So I'd like to propose that, please.
Do I have a seconder, please? Yes, there's several people seconding. I think Councillor Pullinger, you were the first one wanting to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I don't think I heard Councillor Fage mention, but just for clarity, can we make sure that a copy of the letter is also included with the minutes of this meeting, so that it's we've published it to the public as well? Because normally it would be included in the papers prior to the meeting, but obviously it wasn't on this occasion. So I think for transparency, we ought to publish it ourselves as well through our website.
And it should certainly be appended to the minutes. Yes, thank you. Do councillors wish to speak, please? Are there any further comments? Okay, all those in favour of the letter that's been circulated being sent as our formal response, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, I'm on to the next item, which is a request for naming an unnamed road in Biggleswade North. And you have the letter that Councillor Bond has sent to the clerk explaining why this needs to, or why he would like to see this happen. Do you wish to add anything, Councillor Bond?
Well, this letter was actually sent by, not Councillor Bond, by Ian Bond, a landowner, basically to say thank you to the to Mr. Fiddler and his family for actually making this land available so that the HIF project could actually go ahead. So it's me saying thank you. It's also passing to colleagues and Biggleswade to say this is an old agricultural family, and they've been very good in supporting Biggleswade and the hopefully the countryside gaps. So as I've portrayed in the letter, Mr. Fiddler is not well, and it'd be lovely for me able to contact his son tonight and say there's now going to be something in Biggleswade with their family name to convey their long association, and also the very generous help they've given to Biggleswade to support the HIF project and removal of Lindsell's crossings and the safety issues associated with it, which Mr. Ronald Fiddler was very keen to actually become part of. Thank you very much.
And I understand the process is that this being what's called a type 4, the town council simply needs to make a decision, and that is then our local name for that particular right of way. And there's no other process that needs to be gone through. Do I have a seconder for the proposal, please? Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? No? All those in favour of Fiddler's Walk, please. Yes, that's a majority. Any against? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you very much. I'm on to parking controls. And the decision about what we do with enforcing parking controls now that CBC are reintroducing their controls, or have reintroduced their controls and charging. Comments, please. Councillor Fage.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So it looks as though CBC are moving back to normal with parking controls. As our town centre gets back to normal, there is good sense in thinking about how we get back to normal as well. Now, I appreciate there have been quite a few moving parts on parking recently. We voted in favour of new parking orders in February, and that followed 2 months of relaxation, 3 months of relaxation of the Saturday parking. So we already have a sort of semi-new parking regime without the charging on Saturday. Appreciate there are more changes to come on top of that, but I haven't seen terribly much movement on those new parking orders over the last few months. So desirable though it would be to be able to transition straight to those, given that there's a dependency on central beds sort of acknowledging the changes to signage, changes to the programming of machines, I would like to propose that we move back to the existing regime as soon as we can, preferably by the 1st of July if possible, if that's when central beds are going to start enforcing off-street parking as well.
On-street parking, you mean?
On-street parking, I beg your pardon, Madam Mayor. Look, it's not an easy decision, and decisions around parking never are. But the parking orders are relatively well established now. People's habits have adjusted to satisfy, or well, have adjusted in such a way that the parking orders have worked okay. When we introduced them, there was a few teething problems, of course, but we did actually see a big uptick in the number of town centre businesses in the year that followed their introduction. And I'm not saying that there's a cause and effect there, but the idea that they dampen demand in the town centre is largely unproved. I would like to propose that we move back to the regime as soon as we possibly can.
Councillor Bond.
I'd like to second that, but the reason I'm saying this because I think it'd be very confusing if we actually got a situation when we're out of step from central beds when because we use the same enforcement company. So I think it would make a lot of sense. That's why I'm actually seconding this. It makes a lot of sense to reduce the possibility of confusion that we actually synchronise with central beds, so we start enforcement in the same way. So that's why I'm seconding it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the clerk wants to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to give a little bit of sort of advice to members before you sort of reach a decision, and make a distinction between parking enforcement for what we would call the short-term parking, and also compare that with the permit system that we work. Councillors will be reminded that when the parking was suspended, there was a decision taken to extend the permits for the residents and the people who worked in the town. It would be a considerable catching up job to do that by the 1st of July. And if members are mindful to go for that date for reinstating the parking controls within the car parks, that's one thing. But could I just suggest that the decision about whether to extend the permits for the long-term parkers, the residents and the workers in the town is looked at separately, to allow a little bit more time to come back up to date with renewing those permits. What I would not want to happen is that for somebody to have an out-of-date permit and then to get a ticket. If members would consider that, please.
Councillor Fage, it's your motion.
Yes, if I could just put back to the clerk that the way central beds are doing this with on-street parking is that they are issuing, they're not enforcing it particularly for the first few weeks. They're just issuing warnings and notices. Maybe we could do something similar for our own car parks, particularly so for permit holders, for example, for maybe the first month. That would give us a chance to catch up as a town council. That way we wouldn't need to have sort of two separate things running at the same time.
Okay, this is going to get confusing if we're not careful. It is possible, isn't it, to bring in the enforcement from the 1st of July with the relaxed Saturday parking that we had before, and to treat the permits completely separately, which is what I think the clerk was asking. I've got Councillor Pullinger and Councillor Strawn want to speak. Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. So I'm against us returning to parking charges at this time. I think that we need to be encouraging people to use our town centre, to encourage the use of businesses, to help our local businesses recover from this crisis. And anything which detracts and makes people less likely and less encouraged to visit our town centre is not a good thing for the town at this time. There's a couple of other specific things which I think are concerns as well. So we've just touched upon one, which is around the temporary enforcement. So CBC have started the temporary enforcement for the on-street parking. But if we start enforcement from the 1st of July, there will have been no period where people have been getting warnings before they start getting fines in our car parks if they're in contravention, which I don't think it is fair, and again is going to discourage people once they hear of people getting fines in our car parks, which undoubtedly people will hear about. I also think there's an issue with some of the machines being out of order. So I believe in particular the White Hart machine was out of order, and currently the company that services them and repairs them is not working and not doing visits to repair them. So we're going to have enforced parking but no working meters in some car parks potentially. There's also the health and safety issue. So are we expecting, when we're telling people to wash their hands and not touch things they don't need to touch, to start all touching our parking machines to buy tickets when there's no facilities in the town for them to wash their hands, because we've not even got the public toilets open where they could wash their hands, so there's no facility for them. So basically, and then there's the issue that the clerk has mentioned around, and the complexities around permits as well. So personally, I know this, I can't propose this as an amendment, but should members not vote in favour of the proposal, I would look to put another proposal forward to actually not charge until at least the end of July, and at which point we could review it at the second meeting in July as to where we go from there.
Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Pullinger is speaking a lot of sense, particularly taking into account the fact that it appears not all our parking machines are fully functional at the moment. We can't expect some people to park in car parks and be penalised because they've made a mistake, and in other car parks the machines aren't working and they're still getting, they can't be penalised. Further, the point the clerk makes about permit holders, it would be very wrong in my view to bring this in unilaterally, which is going to cause considerable practical difficulties for the people who've already got permits and who've paid their way for up to date but have expired and they're not in a position to renew. So that would defeat the permit situation. The other thing is we've got to remember, come the 4th of July, whole swathes of the town centre will have the option of opening up. And I can just see that the first few weeks are going to be fairly chaotic for everybody. Time limits for parking are probably going to be variable because of the demand that will be placed on businesses. I think it's probably premature to reintroduce the parking. And I think Councillor Pullinger's idea of at least doing a deferral so that we can get the company that deals with our machines to get them up and running, and so they're fully working when we want to implement it, is one part. And the town clerk's made a very valid point, I think, on the permit. So I think Councillor Pullinger's suggestion is a better way forward than that proposed by Councillor Fage.
Other comments? Councillor Fage.
We're kicking the can down the road if we're not careful. I definitely take Councillor Pullinger's point about demand and supporting the town centre. But obviously I've made remarks that you know, offers at least some evidence to the contrary. But I think the longer we delay this, you know, the parking machines being out of order, for example, well, if the company aren't servicing them, well, we need to find a company that will. This is not a decision that should be delayed, whether the parking machines are working or not. And how long does it take to get them fixed? You know, if we were to make the decision to start enforcing again, say from the 1st of August, we could use the month of July as a period, for example, for central beds to, you know, start enforcing, but without charging. So saying, you know, from the 1st of August, you will need a ticket or you will need a permit. That gives us time to sort out the backlog of permits. It gives us time to get the machines fixed, and we're not kicking the can down the road. You know, the longer we're going to drag this on, and it's going to be October before we know it, and no decision's going to have been made. We can't keep making excuses over this. We need to get back to normal.
And before I bring Councillor Alban in, I'm going to say what I've said before. we are not getting any revenue from this, but it is costing us. If you look at the figures that we've had presented tonight, there's no income at all for both this and for the next item, the market, but we do still have expenses such as business rates. So this is costing the council when we're not getting income from other streams either. And we are going to, as I said at a previous meeting, we're going to have to look at the budget again and revise our budget that we've set for this year. I won't say any more at this point, but we do have to remember the financial side of things as well. Councillor Strawn, you wish to come in?
Thank you for allowing me to come back.
Come to you.
Taking into account Councillor Fage's comments, he started with the 1st of July as the implementation date. He's just suggested that possibly the 1st of August would be an implementation date. That, to my mind, would be a far more reasonable date than the 1st of July, because it gives the time for the machines and everything to be working, functional. It gives a lead-in period. I think the 1st of July is too soon and impractical. But if Councillor Fage was to amend it to the 1st of August from the 1st of July, I think I'd probably be able to support him.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Alban, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, well, there's obviously differing views tonight, but I think I would like to see I don't know if this is possible for the next meeting, but a worked up plan to be brought up to the council as to how we sensibly reintroduce charging. So rather than us making it up on the hoof tonight, get some proper information coming in. I didn't appreciate that some of the machines weren't working, some of the payment machines. So personally, I would like to see a proper worked up plan that we can just approve. I think we need to do it. We have to bear in mind the revenue that we need to run the car parks, as the mayor has reminded us. But I don't think we've got enough information to say, yes, we need to do it, and on this particular date tonight.
Okay. I've got Councillor Knight and then Councillor Bond. Councillor
Thank you. Whichever way this vote goes, I am concerned about the potential health impact. The machines do take quite a long time to use. You have to type in your car registration. It's a number of key presses. And if hundreds of people are using those machines over the course of the day, there is the potential for the virus to be on the machine and to be spread that way. And of course, the government is advising people to use contactless forms of payment. Banks are going through sort of extra steps to make sure that ATMs are cleaned throughout the day and as regularly as possible. So I think I would ask, whichever way this vote goes, I would like to understand from the clerk what options we have to ensure the machines are sanitized regularly and how frequently they could be sanitized to minimize the risk that they could spread a virus, and particularly if we were asking people to buy tickets but not enforcing. Okay, so we get the revenue impact, but it just, I'm not sure it's worth the risk. If one person gets the virus, that's potentially catastrophic.
I would only say to that people are very happily using all the holes in the wall in the town. You see them all the time. Sorry, I had Councillor Bond wanting to come in.
If Councillor Fage is actually amending his proposal to be from the 1st of August, I will actually second the amendment. So basically, I'll agree to that amendment, so it's been seconded as well.
Thank you.
I think that makes sense.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Pullinger.
So just to add that I still don't think we should commit to a date of August. I think what Councillor Albone said around asking the clerk and the officers to come back with a worked up proposal is a better option. I think if we can not vote in favour of the amendment and the proposal, then I would then look to make another proposal where we would make a commitment to not introduce charges until at least the 1st of August, but subject to a approval of a plan presented to council at one of the July meetings by the officers.
Okay.
I know I can't make that proposal yet, but that would be my intention.
Okay. Councillor Ramsey.
I take Councillor Knight's point about infection, but I would like to say that going cashless only applies up to what, about £40. So people are still using them on the checkouts and having to punch in their numbers. If they're at all concerned about it, as I am, then they take some gel in their handbag, or they have a wipe to wipe their hands when they use it, or they use these surgical gloves. I don't see that as a problem. If they know they're going to use the car parking machine, then they need to take the precautions in the car so they can just get out and use the machine. I think people have got more sense perhaps than they're given credit for, but they are also using them now at supermarkets as well as at cash points.
Councillor Whithead.
Yeah, it just coming back to an earlier point, just linked to Councillor.
Hello.
Oh, you still there? Yeah.
Yeah, you hung for a minute. Can you start
Sorry.
again, please?
Yeah, sorry. There we go. No, just going back to the earlier point, and particularly what Councillor Ramsey's just said. People are using ATMs, but for example, the banks and things are cleaning them throughout the day. And I think we do need to nail this issue, whether we do restart using the machines sooner or later. We do need to get to the bottom of the issue of cleanliness or hygiene or whatever. We can't duck that. I mean, if we feel that that's the responsibility of the public, then we need to look at that and have it on record, or we need to work out a plan of how the council's going to clean or make the machines hygienic. I think we need to have an answer. We can't just duck it. And yes, people are using cash points. Yes, they are using things in Asda or whatever, but those organizations are also presumably cleaning them at the same time. So I don't think we can be too flippant about it, even though I know we're coming out of the curve and everything else. But I just think we need to bear that in mind.
Councillor Bond.
Just obviously bear in mind, we now got a proposal which is saying 1st of August. I just thought of information that might be interesting to colleagues is Bedford Hospital have introduced charges, and that includes touching machines. So they've actually got charges running now as we speak with touching machines. So I think we're putting ours off by the best part of almost 6 weeks. I think we've got time to get this sorted, get machines operational, and if there is necessary to clean the machines once a day or whatever, I think we actually put that. But the proposal here is actually to reinstitute charges from the 1st of August. And I think that's what we need to do. That's what I'm second that motion. Thank you.
Councillor Fage and Councillor Foster. Councillor Fage first.
Yeah, thank you. I think maybe we can, the proposal stands, but we can definitely ask for an update on progress at the first meeting in July. I think that would make total sense. So if we have to revisit, we can, but if we don't set it, we're going to be, like I say, kicking the can down the road. Some of this work should have been taking place over the last few weeks, but hasn't. And until we commit to a date, it looks like, and give the officers the authority they need to change provider if they need to, well, then, it will be August 2021. We need to get on with this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Frank Foster.
I just wanted to make the point that the crucial element of this to me seems to be getting the machines working. To try and do anything else without working machines, which actually controls the system, seems a bit silly. I think we just got to concentrate on getting the machines working an absolute priority.
Thank you. Clark.
Yes, just to come back on that very last point. There is work being done in the background. Members may not be aware. We are acutely aware, and the Town Centre Operations Manager has been looking into an alternative provider, because I know that he's very dissatisfied with the service that we're getting from the current company. Whether this can be achieved quickly, of course, and as some members have pointed out, we're in the hands of other people. We'd like to have it done sooner, obviously, but this is beyond our area of making the decision. Can I just remind members again, before you actually do vote, as to what you're voting upon, because the issue that I raised earlier about the resident and worker permits, perhaps I'm not certain whether in terms of Councillor Fage's wording that is included or that's excluded.
Okay, can I just ask you before we move on to that point, there are 3 machines not working, but is there a working machine in each car park? That's the critical thing.
As far as I'm aware, not necessarily, because at least one of the car parks, I think there's only 1 machine, but I would have to get confirmation of that.
Right, okay. Councillor Strawn wants to come in.
Yes, just on the point of the company that's currently maintaining or not maintaining the machines, they presumably have a contract with us. They're presumably going to be in breach of contract, and that should be pointed out to them that we expect them to comply with their contract, and the machines they're giving them till the 1st of August is more than enough time to do it. Otherwise, I believe they're in a fundamental breach of contract, and we should be taking action against them.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's right. So, Councillor Fage, I think that the motion that's on the table at the moment is to resume parking controls from the 1st of August, with continuing the no charging on Saturday that we've had since before Christmas. I don't think you've put anything into this motion about permits. Should we take that as a separate item when we've taken this motion, or do you wish to add something to your motion?
Well, I thought I covered it by saying if we were to have enforcement without charges from central beds from, say, the 1st of July, that would give any permit holders enough time to come to the town council and renew their permit in advance of the 1st of August. That gives us time to catch up on the backlog, and it gives residents time to go and buy another permit if they need to.
Okay, so we're talking about resuming control on the 1st of August. But from what you've just said, you want something to be announced for the 1st of July so that people are warned that enforcement will be on the 1st of August.
This is already happening on street parking. This is already happening for on-street parking.
Okay.
So we don't need to use things like ticket machines or anything like that for the 1st of July. Just any cars that are in the car park get a warning that enforcement is taking place on the 1st of August.
Okay, it's just that we've got to sort all that out with central beds, and there's not a great deal of time for that. Councillor Ramsey.
Can I suggest then, in that case, that there's some laminated notices be made to attach to the parking meters to say to people that from the 1st of August, charges will be resumed and new permits will be available at the town council offices. And then people that regularly use those car parks will know what's going on.
That might be a better idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry?
I said that might be a better idea.
Yeah, if you laminate them and put them with the machines.
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing it. The point is you don't have to do anything. You know, it starts on the 1st of August, which gives everyone time to catch up.
As long as they know, yeah.
Okay. I've got Councillor Knight, and then I think we need to take a vote on this. We've spent a long while.
So I think I'm clear. So the proposal is to use the machines and start enforcement from the beginning of August, but we're also planning to make sure this is on the agenda for the next council meeting, just to review the plans and make sure we're on track. Is that right?
I think we want to see where we are with the parking machines. And I think we do need to get on with this, because it's been, the problems with the parking machines predate the pandemic, and this is really a silly situation to be in, isn't it? So I think we need to have probably the parking machines on the agenda next time. Does that clarify, Councillor Knight?
Okay, thank you, that's clear.
Just a minute, I'm making notes before I forget what I'm supposed to be doing. Right, so I'm going to take a vote on the proposal that we start parking enforcement again from the 1st of August, but the parking enforcement will be with the relaxed Saturday, the no charges on Saturday that we've had for some months now.
Yeah.
And if there is an issue that the clerk wants to talk about permits, because we're saying that we hope that the permit system can be back up and running from the 1st of August, then I would ask that that, together with the machines, is brought to the next council meeting if there are issues there. But we would like to start full enforcement from the 1st of August. All those in favour, please show. That's 11 of us. Against? 1. Okay. Any abstentions, please? No. Okay. Thank you for that. So I'm moving on to the next item on the agenda when my clocks stop chiming. Thank you. The next item is a market update, and we have received a report from the Town Centre Operations Manager, and we've also received a market policy document, but these were only received 24 hours ago, and the market policy is quite substantial. There is a recommendation on the Town Centre Operation Manager's report, but we're asked to discuss and consider adopting the market policy and the rules and regulations. So comments, please, people. Councillor Fage again, please.
I think we need to crack on with this as well. So, I mean, it's a little regrettable that we're not in a position probably to verify the policy this evening. I think 24 hours notice and, you know, not having at least a little bit of an offline discussion, be it via SharePoint or whatever, makes it tricky to just nod this through, particularly given that this is the document which is going to basically govern our market traders for certainly the foreseeable future. Look, I've read it. There are some good things, but definitely a few tweaks potentially. And this is obviously not the right forum to have that discussion. So I'm going to propose that we do need to start the market again, and we need to start it again quickly, particularly in light of today's announcement where shops are going to be reopening. So I'd like to propose that we actually set the hard deadline of reopening the market for the 4th of July. That's on the agenda. I know that there is some leniency on the agenda saying that maybe we could delay it for a further week. I don't think we should. We have the layout. We know what the layout needs to be. We've had plenty of time to look at this and consider it. It's all operational. It seems doable. We agreed the layout, when was it? July 2019. So the time is now, definitely. So I'd like to propose that we move ahead with getting the market fully up and running for the 4th of July. And that means allowing all traders to come and trade at the market if they so wish and if we're happy for them to do so. However, maybe we can consider this policy at the first meeting of July to verify it then and ask market traders to sign up to it thereafter. So market up and running first, policy to be verified at the next council meeting when we've had a little bit more time to consider it.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that proposal?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments from anybody? Councillor Ramsey?
Would it be more appropriate for this document to go through the Town Centre Management Committee to be looked at in detail before it comes to Town Council?
Councillor Page?
Yeah, we don't have a meeting of the Town Centre Management Committee. Town Centre we met informally just over a week ago to discuss the market, among other things. We don't have the committees up.
Oh, fine. Yeah, that's okay. I just wondered. Okay, thank you.
But there are ways we can discuss it offline, putting it on SharePoint, tracked changes, etc., comments. Yeah. It's not impossible. We just need a bit of time to do that.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Pullinger.
So I'd just like to endorse Councillor Fage's proposal. I think we absolutely need to have a hard deadline, absolutely no later than the 4th of July. In some respects, it's quite disappointing it'll be as late as that, with shops already reopening and essentially all other businesses being allowed to trade, or most other businesses being allowed to trade in the town centre, and certainly a lot more businesses in the town centre will be trading on the 4th of July, such as the hairdressers. So I think absolutely we need that hard deadline to get the market reopening. I don't think there is a direct connection between having to approve the policy document and being able to do so. The issues that the town centre operations manager has raised around the out-of-date elements of the policy were as much of an issue before COVID-19 as they are today. Yes, it needs to be reviewed, absolutely, but I don't think that is a showstopper to us actually allowing the traders to trade. So fully support the proposal.
Okay, so the proposal is for a deadline of the 4th of July as the last date that the market should fully reopen, and according to the layout that was approved by council some time ago, and which I understand is still the layout that the town centre operations manager is working to. So all those in favour, please. That is unanimous. Okay, thank you. And then we will put the market policy on the agenda for the first meeting in July. Right. We have one item for information, a thank you letter from Biggles FM, which I think we can just note. All right with everybody, just note it. So then I'm moving on to our second public open session. We still have 6 people as attendees. Does anybody wish to say anything to council? This can be on anything, not necessarily on the agenda, but any matter that is appropriate for the town council to be involved in. And again, 3 minutes per speaker and a warning after 2.5 minutes. Does anybody wish to speak? Can you please show an electronic hand because we can't see you? No, I'm not getting anybody. I'll wait a moment. Okay, nobody wishes to speak in this public open session. So we now come to the end of this meeting because we have to have a separate session for exempt items as on the agenda, the Rose Lane car park lease, the appointment of a new town clerk and some other staffing matters. So can I thank everybody for attending the meeting this evening and ask colleagues to join a second meeting shortly. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
I don't have a link for the next.
I don't have a link for the second meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, can we organise that, please?
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.